We are talking about Andor Season 1, Part 3.
It is most of the Narkina arc, but also the one through-line episode that Season 1 has.
I think the ISB stuff is great. The political infighting of especially someone like Dedra trying to have to like climb her way to the top, and she's getting that approval because like she's doing what others are not.
Very cool to watch. Forrest Whitaker's performance is just really, really convincing. Saw himself has been lost for a while, but he's so impassioned with the way that he speaks.
I think Tony Gilroy doing a Mara Jade show could be insane.
I've never felt so excited watching like Star Wars in fewer moments than where Kino finally kind of gives in and says, never more than 12.
Guys, hot take. I kind of love Pong Krell as a villain.
I see. It's the beginning.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Mortis FM, a Star Wars podcast. I am Grayson, one of your hosts.
Switch to targeting computer. I am Cole, the other host, Grayson. I'm getting a little bit of a vibe that we're going to be talking about the same thing that we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
But just in case I forgot, why don't you remind me?
We are talking about Andor Season 1, Part 3. The next, I would call it the Narkina
right.
arc, but it's not because like there's still one more episode in the Narkina arc.
It is the most of the Narkina arc, but also the one through-line episode
Right.
that Season 1 has, which kind of messes with our paradigm here.
Yeah.
But it keeps people in suspense, okay?
Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah, you texted me like a few days ago and you were like, I kind of forgot, like, and I was on the same wavelength. Like, I kind of forgot that episode 7 is just like, hey, here's this episode that kind of gets you to the next 3 episodes. Not that that's a bad thing, but then it kind of, I was like, oh, well, if I'd thought about that a little bit better, maybe you would have done 4 episodes, but guys, you live and you learn.
It's fine because then like the next time we would only be talking about 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And so I think it's better to keep it even. Regardless, we are here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watched an additional episode, good on you. We'll see you then as well.
We'll be back to recap that next week. But yes, today we are recapping episode 7, announcement, episode 8, if I can find my recap right there, Narkina 5, and episode 9, Nobody's Listening!
Nobody's listening! Exclamation point.
Exclamation
in the title as well.
It is yeah. So I'm going to attempt to do a recap. I'm going to preface by saying this is not going to be a extremely comprehensive, in detail, nitty-gritty recap because a lot of moving pieces happen here, especially with Mon Mothma and with Vel and the stuff with Dedra. So I'm going to be a little bit broad. I'm going to once again plug my friend Sunny, fan of the show. She's probably listening right now. Hello. She did a she did a way more comprehensive breakdown on her TikTok. She's worth a follow. Go check out her Instagram and TikTok. I will put it in the description. So if you're on YouTube and you want to go give that a listen to kind of have a bit better of a recap before we go in. If not, hopefully I will do well. Because again, I don't script these out. These are all off the cuff. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start like kind of character by character. So I'm going to start with Cassian and I'm going to end with Cassian and all the other characters are going to be in between because I think that's kind of the best way to go about it. So
that's a good call.
Thanks. Hopefully it pays off. We'll see in 10 minutes or so. Okay, so we start off on episode 7, announcement. Cassian returns to Ferrix with his new paycheck, and he's double checking to make sure everything's good. And he's like, "We got to get off Ferrix." He speaks to Bix. Bix is like, "Go away." And he talks to Marva, and he's like, "Listen, Marva, we got to go. I've got the money." And she seems kind of off, but she's like, "Okay, sure, we'll leave first thing in the morning." The next morning comes. he's like, all right, let's go. And she's like, I'm not leaving. I'm actually, with the whole Aldani heist thing, which she does not know he was a part of. She wants to be more participatory in the rebellion and kind of starting a rebellion sect here on Ferrix. We get a little bit into their backstory, at least with how Marva's husband Clem and Cassian's father die. And some, back in the early genesis of the Empire. And we see Cassian end up like attacking some clone troopers through this and stuff, or at least people in clone trooper armor, whether those are clones or not really sure. Doesn't really matter. But Marva talks about how like she felt so much immense pride in this Aldani thing, and it really motivated her. So she's like, listen, if your path is your own, that's fine, you go on, but I gotta stay here. I gotta see this through. Cassian doesn't really understand, but he leaves anyway, and he ends up going to a planet called Neamos. What I like to call it is it's just a giant Star Wars beach planet. Not like Scarif, but it's like it's like Los Angeles or Miami.
Yeah, I was gonna say it kind of gives off like Florida vibes.
Yeah.
But not in the best way,
Yeah. Yeah, very not in the best way, because very quickly, like not long after he's on this planet, he's hanging out with some girl, because Cassian be rizzing these ladies up. And he gets caught in the crossfire. I say loosely because it's really just these guys running away from the Empire. He gets accused. He gets put on a very quick trial where normally it would be 6 months, ends up turning into 6 years because of a certain act that has happened directly due to the cause of the Aldani heist. More on that later. He gets thrown into a prison factory on the planet. The Empire just throws him in there.
Watch out!
On Narkina 5, which is essentially a bunch of these factories in the middle of these like big bodies of water where they are making these parts.
It's a prison planet, pretty much.
Pretty much a prison planet. One of the most famous now. And he's introduced to his floor with various other characters. I'm not going to list them all here, but the most important ones are Kino Loy, who is kind of the floor director of his, and he's kind of the head charge, played by Andy Serkis, the wonderful Andy Serkis. And a couple of the other guys, the other two that I want to mention are Ulaf and Melshi. Melshi is from Rogue One. And
Melshi's one of the boys.
He's one of the boys. So that's where we're gonna leave off with Cassian for now. He is in prison very unjustly, and more on him later. We're gonna swap over to Mon Mothma. A lot of scenes with her, but she is not happy with Luthen for this whole Aldani thing. She was not cute on this at all, and she's like, essentially like shot heard around the world. Like, this is a big deal. This is going to cause a whole lot of problems. This is going to get people in harm's way. And Luthen's like, that's the point. It's to finally kind of the straw to break the camel's back for people to realize the Empire cannot get away with this any longer. People have to realize. I think there's a quote later on, or maybe even in the earlier episodes, but essentially like they're talking about like you're being choked so slowly that you don't even realize. So this is to kind of give like an aggressive push. So Luthen is not really, that's kind of really all Luthen gets, but Mon is trying to get funding for the rebellion, and she ends up coming into contact with one of her old friends from Chandrila, Tay Kolma, who at first we're kind of not sure what his political allegiances are, but he's actually not a fan of the Empire either. And Mon Mothma is like, listen, neither am I. All of this is a front. I need your help. She's, me neither.
Like subtle winking.
Yes, I'm sure some great quotes here. We'll get into it in a little bit, but a lot of her stuff is basically her trying to get out of the gaze of Perrin and the spies that are watching her, and trying to be a nuisance, a distraction for the Imperial Senate so that she can move this money around, but it's kind of becoming a problem. And one of the big things that Tay Kolma suggests is he gets into contact with, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but essentially it's someone that she does not like, not a fan of, but can give her the funding that she needs to be able to move this money around properly. And she has to kind of think on that. So Tay's like, listen, we should have a meeting with this guy. We need to hear him out. So that's really what's happening with Mon Mothma. And of course, with her like family dynamic, I think it's applicable to go ahead and swap over to actually Vel, because we get a reveal in one of these episodes that Vel is actually the cousin of Mon Mothma, which is big news. And Mon Mothma's like, where have you been for a little, like, you've been gone for a while. She's like, no, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Like
it's
rebel stuff.
Yeah, and so Mon Mothma's like, just, you know, keep feigning the whole like spoiled rich girl, like, you know, but again, they're both all in on the rebellion, or at least getting there at this point. With Vel, she is told by Luthen's assistant, Clea. Clea means business, that you gotta go, you gotta go kill Cassian, right? He is a loose end. He knows about Luthen. We cannot have him running around, revealing that also Cassian is his real name, that he's not Clem. And you go find him. So Vel and Cinta Cinta gets off of Aldhani, because she was left there after the heist, and so they kind of reunite and trying to find Cassian. So that's what's going on with Vel. I think that is a good chain link to go to what's going on Ferrix, and also with Dedra. So Bix and Brasso and some of the other people on Ferrix, Marva's not doing well. After Cassian leaves, some time has passed. Cassian is in the prison for a long time, and they're trying to get in contact with him. And of course, the Imperial presence is becoming more prominent on Ferrix. And that ties into what Dedra is doing, because Dedra, through some wits and her determination, is actually given the jurisdiction of the Morlana sector, and with Ferrix, because Blevin was a bozo, and Partagaz was like, good job, actually. I like your initiative here.
Bozo Blevin,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I love how he was like trying to get like a sleight of hand on her, and it just did not pay off for him at all. And so Dedra is trying to figure out what is going on with Cassian, and also I'm trying to remember exactly how, but she ends up realizing that there's a contact that Cassian can lead them to going by the codename of Axis, Luthen. And so she's going to Ferrix, and they decide to, I believe through Tim, because Tim is the one that ratted Cassian out, they are led to Pax's shop, the one that Tim and Bix work for, and they're kind of, so they start interrogating them, and they're trying to figure out more on who Axis is, and through these terrible torture means, and just trying to hunt down and take out these rebel cells. And also with the whole Aldhani thing, the ISB pushes this whole initiative. I believe it's called PORD or PORD, where it basically it maximizes everybody's prison sentences. Like, they're going with an iron fist on anybody, crushing any and all rebel opposition, going max on the oppression, which is what Dedra says is not what they want. And Luthen confirms this, that the Empire is playing right into their hand again. To instead of it being a slow choke, it's a giant crush, and that way it kind of wakes the people up. And so, so that is what more or less is going on with Dedra. But Dedra is also collaborating a little bit with Cyril Karn, who is again trying to find a new job. He gets implemented into this one bureau, doing like fuel.
It's something about fuel.
It's like fuel cleaning, refining,
or like efficiency.
Yes.
I don't know. It's like bureaucratic stuff.
Yeah, he's pushing numbers, and he keeps putting in these requests because he feels this fire lit in him, because he still hasn't really let the whole Cassian thing go. He wants to enact justice, and probably more so revenge. And this catches the eye of Dedra, who interrogates him and is like, listen, what actually, like, I realized you were in this Morlana thing, what actually happened? And he kind of feeds her a little bit more details that were left out of the report. But then she's like, all right, you've given me what you need, get out of my way, I don't want you part of this anymore, pretend this conversation never happened.
Stop submitting requests.
Yes, just
stay out of it.
Go back to what you're doing. we don't need your help anymore. I've got this light beam right in front of my face. For audio listeners, I'm right in front of my window in the middle of the afternoon. So
it's okay. It's majestic. It's the highlight for your recap.
Yeah. It's the sun dawning or setting. But anyway, but yes, that is what kind of Cyril is doing. And he kind of gets this obsession with Dedra where he's like, listen, I really admire what you're doing. Nobody else is doing this. I want in on this. Let me help. Like, and I'm not gonna lie, he's simping hard for Dedra. Not necessarily in like I don't know if it's in a romantic way or not, but it very much is in like a stalker, like obsession kind of way. Like nobody else feels the same way about the rebellion and about the defense of the Empire, or at least I've never seen anybody like this. The way you do, and I like it's kind of the matching of energy, but Dedra's like, okay, weirdo. She's like, I will put you in prison if you keep doing this. Please leave me alone.
I think she said that she would put him in a cage in the Outer Rim.
Yep. Dude, Dedra is Imperial maxing, bro. She's like
100%.
She's like so hardcore Imperial, it's crazy.
I mean, just like since we're on the topic, I was gonna discuss it later on in the episode, but like it's really weird like how much she doesn't really retaliate to this, given how extreme she is in her methods, especially in like her interrogation methods. But when Cyril comes up and like he's acting really, really weird, getting in her boundaries and actually like grabbing her to get her to stop walking, she's like, stop, okay? Final warning, except second to last final warning, quit it. And then she just leaves. I don't know, it feels different because I guess she doesn't see him as a rebel, so there's not really,
that's the thing is I think she's like treating him not as harshly because like he is on her side, but she's also like, I don't have time for this, please get out of my way. He doesn't later on, but that's for the future.
I guess we'll see in season 2 for sure.
Yes, we'll see. I guess that's pretty much all of our bases covered, except back to where we are with Cassian in Narkina, where he is deep in the prison. He's been here. I think we get a time jump at some point where it's like 30 days. So he's been in there well over a month, maybe even more by the end of this episode. And what's happening is they're building these machines. We don't really know, but we do see that he is slowly kind of chipping away at this like pipe in the bathroom.
He's always up to something.
He's always up to something. And he is like trying to get Kino to wake up. He's like, dude, so Kino only has like 217 days left in his sentence or something like that. And he's just trying to play it by the rules and get out of there, right? He is an efficient man. He's like, quit asking questions about how many guards there are or what the infrastructure is like. It's like quit waste. And to the point where like Melshi is also in the same mindset as Cassian and is like, don't ever look at the number. You're never leaving here. And Kino is like, quit thinking like that. We cannot afford to think like that. We are like, our asses are on the line, and he's like, I'm trying to just do this. The straw that really breaks the camel's back is when there's kind of word coming that something happened on level 2. I believe they're on like level 5 or something like that. Something like that. Maybe level 7. It doesn't matter. And they're catching wind that something bad happened, but we don't really know. They're using this kind of sign language stuff. Well, what happens is one of the people in their team, Olaf, an older man, only has about 40 days left in his sentence. But he is not doing well physically. He's struggling. His hands hurt, probably hits from like arthritis, and to the point where he's getting winded really easily. And inevitably he has a stroke. Some medics are called, and the medic's like, I can't save him. I'm gonna put him out of his misery. And they're like, what? Why? And they're like, I'm like, this is a better alternative than what he would have because nobody is leaving. And they're like, what are you talking about? Nobody's leaving. What happened is that on one of the levels, their sentence was ended and was immediately just put in another level. Whether this was an accident or whether this was let's see, to me, I'm like, I don't think it was an accident.
Ain't no way.
They're like what Melshi says, they're done with you and they will use you until they don't need you anymore. And they end up this gets out, word gets out, and to prevent word from getting out, they kill everyone on the floor. Obviously, that did not work. So they're like, no one is getting out of here. It does not matter about your time. like you are stuck here until you're dead. And Cassian keeps asking throughout the entirety of the episode, like, you know, how many guards are on each level? And Kino finally wakes up and goes, never more than 12. And that is the end. Oh, okay. I think that was like pretty much everything.
Yeah, I think like I think that's pretty much covered. Anything else we'll comb through as we talk about stuff.
So yeah, what's the first thing you want to talk about? Because there is a lot here to talk about.
Okay. Man. How do you feel about the presentation of the ISB in this show? Because I think like this is like it had been brought up before, both in canon and in Legends, but I think this is like the big deep dive into the ISB, at least in terms of canonical stuff. So how do you feel about it? How do you feel like it's being shown?
I think the ISB stuff is great, and I mentioned this earlier in one of our group chats, just kind of talking about my rewatch, that like specifically with Dedra and with like Leo Partagas and all of these guys, it's not stuff that like I think many Star Wars fans would be like, wow, this is really entertaining, but to me it is extremely entertaining, and I love seeing how the intricacies of it working. And it's like, again, the political infighting of especially someone like Dedra trying to have to like climb her way to the top, and she's getting that approval because like she's doing what others are not. And I think Dedra is anytime she's on screen, she is a force to be reckoned with. Right. I do not know the name of the actress, but she does a phenomenal job as this character.
Yeah, Dedra is definitely kind of gives me like Tarkin vibes. Like how, like, at least in terms of how Tarkin climbs the ladder.
Yes.
Which is always very well. You know, I hate to say it, but like Krennic wishes he was like Dedra and Tarkin, right? Because Krennic was still pretty good at what he did, but he only got so far. And when he got up against people like Tarkin, it's not going to happen. You know, he starts floundering, starts messing up. And yeah, I really like the political intrigue as well. Watching Dedra kind of navigate this ladder here, and beat past the odds, and then also like earn respect from her peers and from her superiors, is very cool to watch. Like especially when she says probably one of my favorite lines, which was that systems either change or die. It's like, she is right, right. And then she totally put the superior like he was like, thesis please, like, all right, I see what you're saying here, you know. It's very cool to watch. I'm excited to see where her character goes in the future, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is like kind of opened up a new lens for me of like her character, and I'm glad that she's gonna have a presence in season 2. One of my favorite scenes is after she is given jurisdiction of Ferrix and the Morlana sector. Partagas like leaves, and he's like, walk with me really quick, and all he says is just watch your back, you know.
Yep,
like,
that's it.
Because he knows people are going to be out to get her. She is the only woman in this room, and the entire reason she got this is because she was willing to do what others were not. And you know, she did go a roundabout way of doing it, but like that moment where he's just like, you know, I'm paraphrasing here, but like, you know, if only everybody could have like the devotion that Dedra has, you know.
Right.
And her assistant is also like super clutch. I don't know his name.
Yeah, definitely. Like I mean, it's kind of fun like seeing them work as a team, and like especially like when her assistant like steps up to the plate to say like a final piece of evidence that, you know, really helps the case. It was
the clean shaven thing, like that one little through line to be able to be like, listen, there was a clean shaven guy. He kind of matches the description of what people say at Aldani. Like this could be it. This could be our guy.
Yeah. I will say, as I had mentioned in the previous episode, like it is entertaining to watch it through like the lens of Dedra, and like you even get put into the position where you start to like root for her. However, in like I think it's the last episode of this like 3-episode batch here, you finally get to see her through the opposite lens from Bix, and That's when Dedra's true colors really show.
Dude,
where
that
like
line where she's talking to Bix and she's like, it's at the very end, right before she gets tortured with like this the device. She's like, you wouldn't believe me anyway, and she's like, no, I suppose I wouldn't. You know?
Yeah.
Oh
and even
my gosh!
Right before that, I think she says like the last thing you want to do is annoy me or waste my time or
She
something
says,
like that.
the last thing you want to do is bore me.
Yeah.
Which is, I was like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. It's not even piss her off. It's just a.
Then it's like, oh, it's really easy to see kind of evil, you know, like that is evil, right? And so that shows you kind of a good juxtaposition between like the morally gray, like fighting for your cause sort of thing, and then seen through the eyes of someone that actively opposes her, right? Then she treats them very differently. And she treats Cyril very differently, even when he steps beyond her boundaries far more than Bix ever does. But he is an Imperial bureaucrat, right? And so, like, he's a citizen of the Empire, and so it's not that big of a deal. But then Dedra's on the field, she's not messing around. Yeah, I will use experimental torture device that could completely ruin your mind. I don't care. I think you're boring and annoying, and I want to get my job done because I'm trying to climb the Imperial ladder for a 2% raise annually. You know, like But it's scary. It's scary stuff. Like watch and God, I mean, her doctor guy. What is it like, Dr. Gorst, Dr. Gorst or something?
Yeah. Yes.
Freak. Crazy.
That guy is like Star Wars Jonathan Crane, dude. Like Scarecrow.
100%. It's like, there's this kind of cool like experimental torture device.
Dude,
it's crazy. Don't worry about it. Nothing physical's gonna happen, you know.
Like dude. Okay, so I have a note for that scene, but first of all, the whole backstory. I believe it. I'm blanking on the name. I had it written down. I remember because I read a little bit about it in that Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. They talked about that massacre, and they talk about the device. It was. I was like, oh yeah, I remember them talking about this. But the presentation of him just like. He seems so excited to use this, and he puts it on, and you don't hear anything. Yeah, you're waiting to hear like the ringing, but it does it so much better. It's kind of like, you know, when there's a horror movie and there's a monster, and it's so much scarier when you haven't seen the monster, and then eventually when it shows it, either it's way scarier than you imagine, or not as scary at all. But it's the unknown, right? And that's exactly what they do with this scene, where they're like, hey. You know, there's no way we can relay how painful this is going to be. So instead, it's going to be dead silent, and we're just going to show the sheer emotion on Bix's face until she just lets out this blood-curdling scream down the hallway.
I think I agree. I think that it is the best way to show how impactful it is not to show it directly to us, but just to show Bix's reaction, because then it's left for us to interpret. And honestly, what I'm curious about is like, what did they tell Bix's actress as like subtext in order to kind of like give her that extra oomph to delivering that, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't tell her anything. Maybe they just like kind of asked her, hey, like imagine it, right? But yeah, I don't know. That's either way. The Empire is terrifying when they're really efficient. Man, Andor does it so well, which is why I'm really excited in a terrible way for the Gorman Massacre. You know, I think that it will really do an excellent job of showing just how much a rebellion was needed.
Yeah. They keep mentioning it even in season 1. I forgot a crucial scene in the recap. Luthen goes to visit Saw Gerrera.
I was gonna forget. That's like one of my favorite scenes. I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we might as well. I was just gonna say, like, it's cool because in this show we have seen barely any stormtroopers, and I think that is so intentional because, like, truly, like, yes, you know, as Star Wars fans and the tropes, like, stormtroopers are not typically that scary for us, you know, because it's like in most scenarios they kind of get away with it, and so they're like, well, instead of showing it exactly, they're cannon fodder. Even in Narkina 5, like, there's not stormtroopers. They don't need to have stormtroopers because of the way the security system works. And I think that's a great choice from the showrunners, is to have, like, let's just show the faces of the Imperials. And yes, we get that a little bit in some other shows with, you know, Tarkin or Krennic or Moff Gideon or Thrawn. But like, it's the ISB and the dudes in the uniforms and just the sheer joy that they get from doing their job. Like, another great example of a guy that, man, most punchable, like, Imperial face of all time, but he is like, and he's just, the actor is doing a phenomenal job. When they first get to Narkina,
I knew you were gonna mention this guy. I was waiting for that.
Yeah. He's got that deep, thick British Imperial accent that you're just so used to hearing, and I'm like, he's in the same caliber of like Lieutenant Nolan from Bad Batch, where you're just like,
100%. He's probably his dad, you know?
They're actually related, dude. Just sucks, and but it's so good because you're like, man, like, these Imperials are just sickos, dude. Like,
it's, you know, that's what happens when they uphold that sort of like system that enables that sort of behavior. You know, like they're looking for that sort of thing. They're like, okay, we need these kinds of guys.
Another great scene. We will get to the Saul Luthen thing in a little bit because it's great. But another Imperial thing, and I have a note here, is the trooper voiced by Sam Witwer that arrests Cassian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like in my personal notes, it was Cassian gets arrested by Sam Witwer.
Yep.
Dude, that guy, not Sam Witwer, but the Sam Witwer shore trooper sucks,
dude.
Clearly trying to fulfill a arrest quota or something.
100%. I was like, oh my gosh, this feels like one of those things that you see of like cops abusing power, you know?
Right.
Like, it's just a total power trip. And like, Cassian is literally just standing there and he is twisting his words around him and all. And he's just like, you need to calm down, sir. And all this stuff. And Cassian's like, I'm just going to, the store is right there. Even down to the, like, great shot right after of when the KX droids walk up the stairs. And like, it's actually, there's kind of something that's funny. Like, you see the guy like fly around the corner and then like the other one walks up, like, but he's just, literally just like catches him and throws him. But when he gets to that point where he's like choking Cassian, dude, I was like, oh my God. And when you see how many people are getting incarcerated and put into these prisons, not even just on Narkina, like we see them getting put in other shuttles, like he goes to that hearing and there's just tons of people that they're just sliding next, you know? And I'm like, it really puts into perspective of like, Cassian was so unlucky. He got like a 6-year sentence for doing nothing. They're in the prison and he's just like, so what did you do? And he's like, nothing.
He just said nothing. And the guy said, like, we're getting a lot of that lately. People are doing nothing, and it sucks because like even though as we know, Narkina 5 ends up having a rather unorthodox prison situation, you know, prison escape. That's not the only place. It's also not the only facility where that happens. We see another one like when they're going there. And so just imagine, like, that was only one town on one planet where all of those sentences were happening. Imagine how much that was happening across the galaxy at that time. Who knows? And what were they doing in the other prisons? Maybe it was even worse conditions than Narkina 5. A lot of these things are experimental, you know, trying to see what works and what doesn't.
Dude, I know if I'm assuming George has watched Andor. I know the Narkina arc has to be his favorite because it is so THX 1138 coded, dude. Like the psychological conditioning and then being like just I mean, the all white, the jumpsuits, they're eating out of tubes. Like, it is straight out of George's original fan film, and even down to like the white or the noise that we get with the with the Bix or with the scene with the torture device. I'm like, oh my, this is all in line and an expansion of like George Lucas's vision, even beyond Star Wars, and I think that is excellent.
I'm gonna want to check to see what he thinks of the show, and maybe I'll bring it up if I remember for our next episode. But I feel like this really does demonstrate the kind of oppression that George was really wanting to show with the Empire. Really powerful stuff. It sure does inspire one to get a little angry, you know, a little agitated, right?
Oh, I put in my notes here, I said I said, bro, if I got put in prison for 6 years for nothing, I'd crash out and join the rebels too. Like,
Yeah, dude, 100%. And I love how it's called. I love how you worded it. I'd crash out.
yeah, dude, that's exactly what happens. It's all of these moments that Cassian is directly involved in, and yet he still doesn't go full in on the rebellion. And this really is the moment where it's like, screw that. Like after all of this, it's this, and of course later on with Marva, where he's like, I'm done. And that's why I'm so hyped for Andor season 2, because I'm like, we're gonna get angry, like diehard Cassian, and I am. So
we're gonna get some like Agent Cassian doing stuff. I want to see him become I don't even remember what it was, but like he ends up having a pretty I don't know, honorable role in the rebellion by the time of Rogue One, right? As like some sort of, I think they labeled it spy when he's like first introduced to Jin. But like, I don't know, I'm imagining like him walking across the table, like he leans up against it and then he asks Jin, like, when was your last contact with Saw Gerrera? Like, looks like it seems like a completely different kind of Cassian than the one that we see at the beginning of Andor, right?
It's at the end of Rogue One where he's like, it's all of the guys, including Melshi, and he's like, spies, saboteurs, assassins, we've all done terrible things in the name of the rebellion, but like Cassian is willing to go all in on that, and from the clips that we've seen for season 2, like it's just gonna be him on like a streak of doing different missions for the rebellion, like whether it's I guess stealing that TIE fighter, or him in like the slicked back hair with the sunglasses,
looking very dapper.
Yeah, like all of that stuff. It's, oh my gosh, it's like you truly. And I felt this way the first time I watched it, and I'm sure you felt this way as well, of just like, you feel so angry when he gets put in prison. You're like, what the hell, dude? Like, are you kidding me?
Well, I think Diego Luna does a really good job at just kind of demonstrating the shock of emotions. Because like from the time when he gets arrested to probably around like the end of his first shift at Narkina 5, he's basically kind of dead silent. Like he's kind of dissociating, he's in shock. Like, oh my God, how did I get here this fast? What happened? Because he literally is, without any explanation, just thrown through the ringer. Really, really powerful stuff. I think that this arc in general, and we haven't even touched One Way Out yet, which we will next week, just shows that really, really well. I've never felt so excited I've never felt so excited watching like Star Wars in fewer moments than at the very end of this episode, as you had mentioned, where Kino finally kind of gives in and says, never more than 12. Like, like we got another rebel, he too is committed. And he's like, all right, we're gonna get out of here. Never more than 12, which shows us that like he already knew, he has known, but now he also just kind of needed that final push to rise up against the Empire.
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully we see him again.
Dude, Andy Serkis, like, one of our personal just like favorite actors, dude.
I love him, man. Really excellent actor.
He's so good, dude. Like, I know we're huge. We already mentioned Jonathan Crane as well, like, Dr. Gorse being that, but like, of course, dude. I mean, he's phenomenal as Alfred in the Batman, and I cannot wait to see more of him. And so, I mean, of course, he's also Snoke, which is crazy, and he's also amazing. He's also
Snoke. Gollum. Talk about range. How could you say, oh, I was Snoke, Alfred, and also Gollum? I mean, that's a really good resume. I'm just saying.
Oh, he's stacked. I mean, he is it's funny because like he's kind of transcended to this point where he's not just like the mocap actor anymore. Like, because that's what it was.
Stuff too, right?
Yes. Oh my God. He directed Venom 2.
We're gonna forget about it.
Listen, I think he tried his best. All right, there's only so much you can do with the Venom movies.
You can talk to M. Night. There's always a flop. It's got to be there somewhere. So at least you got it out of the way.
Yeah, dude. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I cannot wait to get to One Way Out, because like
Yeah.
So for some context, these are the 3 episodes that I kind of dipped off of a little bit. Like I remember the Aldani arc happened, and I watched this episode, and then I think I got behind on a couple episodes. I was trying to think which episodes those were, but I was like, no, I watched week to week up to Aldani. It was these episodes that I was like, I kind of got behind because I was behind, like working a lot, and these were a little bit slower paced. And then I remember when this episode came out, I was a couple weeks behind on it. So I watched like all of the Narkina stuff, like sequentially, like back to back to back. And it was once we got to those, like this episode and the next episode, that I was like, oh my God, like this is so hype. But we will get to that. We will get to that next week. I don't want to jump the gun. So back to I'll let you take the wheels here. Luthen with his great scene with Saw.
Yeah. So Luthen goes to see Saw, and I'm pretty sure this is the guy, but we see my guy Two Tubes. I love
of the two tubes.
one of the two tubes. One of the quad tubes. You know. And Forrest Whitaker as Saw like really owns this scene. I mean, like Luthen does a great job.
We said last week, Saw. I cannot wait to see more of him in season 2. Like I know he is a very problematic character, but I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. The more I've thought about it, I didn't mean to like steal your thunder right here. But
no.
Okay. I think I just really enjoy complex characters that kind of suck, but kind of like own the scene. Like I'm not going to say one of these characters because this will be a spoiler for people, and there are people that are listening that I know are watching Jedi Survivor, but there's a character in there that I really love. You know him. That's all I need to say.
Yeah.
Dedra has risen into that where I'm like, she sucks as like, you know, being a villain, but like I'm very entertained by her character. Saw fits into that category again because he's had so much and such a dynamic arc from either Clone Wars to Jedi Fallen Order to Rebels to here to Rogue One. Guys, hot take. I kind of love Pong Krell as a villain. Like,
look, I respect that. I think people are a little blinded by how much of an ass he is, because he is.
He sucks.
But he's cool. He's a cool villain, okay?
Yeah.
He's a cool villain.
And yes, he's only in a handful of episodes, but the presence of him and the opposition he creates against the clones is so fascinating because he is truly one of the only like turncoat Jedis we see in the Clone Wars, like visually. And he's just got like the sauce, like a basilisk with like his 4 arms and 2 double-bladed like nunchuck lightsabers. I was like, this is the most over-the-top thing ever. But yes, Saw very much fits into that, and I love the scene we get here with them.
Yeah, so I just wanted to pull up the quote so I didn't get it wrong.
Of course.
But like one of just this scene in particular is really good for just kind of establishing the diversity of the rebellion, of the galaxy, and also just kind of sets up really good world building in one line. But like when Luthen is trying to talk to Saw about, hey, it would be good if you actually joined us, because we're taking too much time infighting, right? And Saw's like, you know, I'm the only one that is, I don't know, it's something about purpose, like that's like graced with the purpose of his cause,
clear,
and
like
Luthen kind of scoffs. But then Saw says, Krieger's a separatist. Maiape's a neo-republican. The Gorman Front, the Partisan Alliance, Sectorists, Human Cultists, Galaxy Partitionists, they're lost. All of them lost. And his Forrest Whitaker's performance is just really, really convincing. He's just so... You can tell there that, like, I mean, yeah, Saw himself has been lost for a while, you know? But he's so impassioned with the way that he speaks of this. That, like, yeah, he is an excellent asset to the rebellion. It's just that he is incredibly dangerous. Because he's unpredictable. And he has, like, his own way of doing things. So much so that would make Luthen look like a daycare, like I don't know, a daycare chaperone, right?
Yep.
Like Saw kills members of his own crew if they kind of show a little bit of, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't do this,
Yeah, I mean, because even when we think back, like, and we'll talk about her a little bit, like Clea, very intense.
Yeah.
And as far as I remember, Luthen does not want Cassian dead. He is not the one to be like, hey, we have to go find him. It's Clea that goes up to Vel and like, hey, you need to take care of this. We cannot risk this. Like, there's the whole, I guess I forgot to mention this scene when they cut off the transmission to Ferrix.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I'm blanking on what she says, but essentially like, you're losing your edge. Like you're like,
she says you're slipping.
Yes.
And he says, it almost like he's trying to convince himself. He just says, I'm not slipping.
Mm-hmm. Until eventually he's like, fine, shut it off.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it seems like he did get her into this because she still listens to his orders. She's like, tell me to cut it.
Yeah.
And I will. But you have to tell me. But she is she has that fierceness that Luthen carries most of the time, but not all the time.
Yes, it's sometimes Luthen can get lost in like the joy. Like, I mean, even when like he's celebrating the success of the Aldani heist, like she's still kind of like locked in, Mm-hmm. I'm really curious. Like, we don't really know anything about her. And I want to know like how she was brought about, like the nature of her and Luthen's relationship. Because again, it just comes back to like Luthen is such an interesting character. One thing I wanted to mention with Saw though is you've watched Rogue One more recently than I have. Do we remember at what point Jyn leaves Saw's care? Like when she goes out on her own?
She was she 16?
Is that when she
something?
leaves?
She was younger. I was also, I don't know if this is what you're alluding to, but I was also wondering, like, is she there right now? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think she was much younger. But I can't say for sure.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember what the timeline is of like how old she is when Lyra is killed and Galen is taken, because she's like pretty little. And then I think she's like in her early, like by the time we get to Rogue One, she's like in her early 20s, if not a little bit younger than that. But I'm trying to remember at what point like she leaves Saw's jurisdiction. But it is interesting because I feel like in a weird parallel, like Cassian to Luthen is kind of what Jyn is to Saw. Not necessarily that they're like father figures, but like I was talking to someone about how like there are a lot of like parent-child relationships in this.
Yeah, it's interesting watching these kind of generational rebels,
Yeah. A lot of parallels because I remember I mentioned this last episode, but like originally I was like, oh, could Vel be Luthen's daughter? But now after the reveal, and because I forgot that Vel was
I did too.
Mon Mothma,
Completely.
I was like, oh, yeah, because it's such a small detail. So I'm like, okay, no, there's no way, because then Mon would obviously be like, that would be like her uncle pretty much. And maybe they could still reveal that, but I doubt it. And then of course you've got at least in the grander scheme of like Andor and Rogue One, you've got Galen and Jyn, but you've also got Saw and Jyn, and then you've got Marva and Cassian, and you've got Mon Mothma and her daughter with Leia, and like
you have Bail and Leia, technically that
which I'm almost certain we will see Bail in season 2. Like that is, I think that's going to happen.
I hope so. You also have Cham Syndulla and Hera.
Yeah.
That's a big one. There's a lot of
Cham Syndulla showing up in season 2 would be crazy.
That would be cool. I don't know.
I do see him.
I don't remember what happens to him.
He shows up in Rebel season 2. I'd have to remember. I don't think he dies. But I do have a strong feeling that like if we could very much see Hera in season 2. Like
I hope so. I think it could be good if done correctly.
Yeah, like it might be a thing of like it's after Rebels season 4, so like, you know, after the big thing that happens with Thrawn, and so because we know that the Ghost was part of the Battle of Scarif, and we know that Hera was there because there's the whole intercom where they're like, you know, General Syndulla. So, you know, and now that we have a live action Hera and we have a live action Chopper, I think that could happen. Even if it was just like a, you know, like a Rebel council meeting sort of thing. But
could
she's
certainly be doable.
And we even see Cassian on Yavin 4, like, which I think he is going, like, I do think that scene, he's wearing the same outfit that he goes to when he goes to the Ring of Catherine. So, like, truly, I think...
Yeah, it's going to be like the last second leading up to it. Total Rogue One style as well. That way you can watch Andor to Rogue One to A New Hope back to back to back.
The question is, what's the next prequel show to Andor that we're going to get, you know?
Luthen. I don't know. Yeah. Palpatine. God, that would be so...
Please.
But if it was a prequel show, then it would just be like, it'd be crazy if we did like this new act or something that makes it even worse.
Hear me out. This is a pipe dream that I want, but I think it would work so well. A show very similar to Andor. It's a prequel to Andor.
Okay.
And it has, now this character is not in Andor, but the other characters that will show up are in Andor. A Mara Jade show in the style of Andor, and it's the flip side where she's like politically assassinating like rebels and stuff. Like Saw Gerrera could show up, Luthen could show up. That could, and she doesn't even have to pull out a lightsaber. Like that's not even one of her main things. But it's her doing what Cassian is doing. And it's very deep political drama. But it's her, like, you know, I mean, imagine like this again. It's never gonna happen. But imagine like an arc.
You don't know.
I don't know. Imagine an arc like the Aldani heist where she's like has to go undercover to like be part of this whole thing, like, and then it's actually revealed like in the same way that like Cassian was just the mercenary, he takes out Skeen, like it's actually this whole bait for her to like lure out rebels and stuff. And they're like, it's like they're like, wait, you're not a rebel, and she's like, no, like you know, like just like that. Yeah, something like that would go crazy because I don't know. It might happen.
That's a great idea. I think Mara Jade needs to come back into canon.
I think Tony Gilroy doing a Mara Jade show could be insane. I don't think he would. I think he's probably done with Star Wars after this. But like something, again, this 12 episode, just kind of short and sweet, really nitty gritty, political driven show. But maybe from the Imperials. I mean, we're getting a little bit of the Imperial side with like the ISB, but like more of an action orient, like in the sense that like it could provide some action. But that is my wild Star Wars pipe dream of like how that could be done, you know? And then it could possibly set up for her showing up later down the line, you know, post Return of the Jedi to be like, so anyway.
No, that's a really good idea. I think honestly, like just Andor in general is an excellent example of what happens when you allow creative integrity to not only be followed through in a project, but also to properly endorse it. Wink, wink, Disney. Please pay attention. Thank you. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to let these stories be told without too much meddling in the corporation one.
I mean, like the best seasons of, or the best projects of Star Wars have been the ones with the least amount of tampering.
Figure.
Yeah. It's like that's why Star Wars worked in the first place, was because George had he had free reign of his vision. The best stuff that we have seen with like the Disney Plus shows, or at least with just Star Wars shows in general, Clone Wars Season 7, that was all Dave Filoni. That was just like him and the remnants of what George Lucas and him had with those last 4 episodes. Bad Batch, from what I understand, pretty big creative freedom there. Some great stuff in there. Rebels, Andor, Rogue One, like all of that, those are the stuff. Mando season 1 and 2 specifically are just like, it's like unadulterated, like pure storytelling goodness that does not cut corners or sacrifice things to kind of put in other stuff. It's just, here is a well-packaged Star Wars meal, and they succeeded. All of those things that I just mentioned are some of the most successful projects that they have ever had, and are some of the most acclaimed for good reason. So
I might get some flack for this. I feel the same way about the Acolyte.
Sure.
And I think that has not been recognized in a mass scale yet, but it will. Just wait. You gotta believe me, I swear.
Dude,
you know?
I truly, this is kind of a side tangent. I have actually kind of missed the week to week of Acolyte. Again, we admit, like, when we had a few problems with the show, it was by no means perfect.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of really good presentation there, and a lot of things that I look back on extremely fondly, and I really want that story to continue because it felt so unique and original. And again, I don't know, should not be a hot take if you read deeper into the story whatsoever, but it doesn't really step on any toes or anything. Guys, May and Osha being twins created by the Force does not break canon. I assure you, it does not dilute Anakin at all. Anakin was created by the Force. Anastasia created them with the Force, and it created a whole bunch of issues, okay?
It's okay that Ki-Adi-Mundi's a little bit older. Okay?
He's an alien. Their age has never been... This is an Andor episode. I need to calm down.
It's an Andor episode. But yeah, that's all we gotta say about that.
Chimera is one of the coolest Sith Lords created. Okay.
If he even is one, don't know. It would be great if there were a season 2, but
we don't
I
know.
guess we'll never find out. So we don't know for sure.
Season 2 would go crazy. Animation, something. I don't know. Back to Andor. One little detail. I'm gonna go through some of my notes because we've been talking about some of the heavier hitting stuff, and there is one moment in particular that I want to talk a little bit about because we talked about it in the first episode. But I'm gonna go through some like small ones that I have, or like quotes. First thing, in the very opening of episode 7, Cyril has clone trooper action figures in his room. Did you notice that?
Huh?
Yeah. Phase 1 clone troopers.
Oh, what?
There's like he's like looking out the window, and like on his desk to the right side of the screen, there's like 3, I'm pretty sure they're clone troopers because one of them has like a fin. So it might be like different phases of the armor. I'm not sure.
Dude,
but
I did not notice that.
I saw that and I was like, does he have little troopers? Like completely in line with his character, by the way. Like
yeah. Well, again, that kind of makes you think. Like a lot of citizens of the Empire liked the Empire because they thought it was still the Republic. You know, they kind of thought that it was like the evolution of the Republic, and so like. It makes sense to me from like a through line that someone growing up with the Republic that revered the clones was like, oh, they're so cool, know, and then seeing like, no, the Jedi turned against the Chancellor, and it does make sense. We have to strengthen our grip. Like that makes a lot of sense. That is what happens to societies. Like they're doing these things for a reason. Sci-fi fantasy as it may be, it is a very realistic chain of events. Yeah. So I could see that happening. I mean, the reason why people were so okay with the Jedi being exterminated was because, one, of course, Palpatine lied to them saying that they were traitors, but it was a very easy lie to sell because a lot of people blamed the Jedi for the war and were sick of the war, and they wanted something to be done about it. And they were like, oh my gosh, Palpatine is our GOAT. All praise Palpatine, get rid of the Jedi. And that's why society, it was so easy to turn the society on the Jedi because, again, it was the evolution of the Republic in their minds. Oh, we have an empire. It's going to be more unified, and we're going to be more cohesive, and it's going to be better for the entire galaxy. We need more security. We can't have separatists doing the terrible things that they did again, and we can't have the Jedi, allowed to have all these liberties. Like, it makes sense. because everything was shown to them in a way that made that believable. You know?
Yep. And that's why Palpatine got away with so much, is because they were sick of the senator. Like, it's literally what it was a great little moment in Attack of the Clones here, when Anakin's like, like, oh, I think everybody should be, put in a room and forced to make a decision. And she's like, well, that's the problem, is like people don't always agree. And he's like, well, they should be forced to, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, the reason why people liked Palpatine so much is because they didn't really care if he bypassed the way they did it. He got stuff done, and whether it was good or bad. I was about to
say, he got things done,
Yes, they were literally. I remember there was something I was reading or watching or whatever, and that was something they were like I saw. Maybe it was like even like a propaganda poster and something. It was like Palpatine gets it done, And I was like, I was like, wow. I was like, that makes so much sense.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm gonna not dwell on that too much. Let's see. There's a funny moment right after this. I'm just playing the hits here. Where Cyril's mom, by the way, just completely. Her actress is so good. Like, she is so just so quintessential, like, nagging mom. But
she plays as Mrs. Fig in Harry Potter. In case anyone knows what I'm talking about, you don't have to.
In the opening of Order of the Phoenix?
Order of the Phoenix, yep. Yes, she does.
Oh my gosh! Well, we also have 2 other Harry Potter alum in this.
Harry Potter alum, that's one.
Yeah, that's what they are. We've got James Potter is the medic in Narkina 5.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? He's the guy.
I can see it now. I can see it. James, what happened? What happened?
Dude, he's got his little blue stripe on his sleeve. And of course, Marva is Mrs. Dursley.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Petunia Dursley.
Does Andy Serkis play anybody in Harry Potter?
Oh no.
Does
I don't
he
think
not?
so.
Okay, I was like, maybe he voiced somebody in Fantastic Beasts or something. I also, the guy who plays Olaf I failed to look this up prior. I've seen him in something else as well, but I cannot for the life of me think who it is. Nothing about Andy Serkis?
No. I only had to check in case, just for our mutual friend Jacob. Because in the mere case that he watches this, he would kill me if I just didn't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised he's not in Harry Potter, because I feel like he fits in that. We could fit in that mold very well.
British, good actor. Why don't you say? Why don't you get in there?
I mean, and there's also a ton of other Harry Potter crossover. David Tennant is Hugh Wang, but it's not this. But and of course, Warwick Davis plays Flitwick. But yes, in this at least, there's a couple other Harry Potter people. That's crazy though. I did not know that about Cyril's mom. Huh? What do you know?
What do you know?
But she's like critiquing his like suit, and he like had it tailored, and it's like such a nitpicky thing. But I was like, wow, she clocked him. She says, he's like, what does my collar say? And she's like, I don't believe in myself. I am desperate for approval. And I was like, dang, bro, she was kind of spitting right there. Like,
it feels like I hate to say it, but I would love to. I don't want this, but I would love to watch just a full episode of just Cyril and his mother being miserable in the house, because it's very funny watching that banter back and forth.
There's so many, like, most of the times that I laugh in this show are when she says something and he like snaps back, and I just like, I'm just cracking up, or like she'll say something so ridiculous and he just like doesn't even respond. You're like, this is ridiculous.
Hard not to notice. The last arc.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They're fun little scenes, and of course he's always one of my favorite moments is she's like critiquing him, and she's like, oh, she's like, I make 2 home cooked meals. That's just cereal. It's just serving him cereal.
He said, actually, as well. He was like, you went in my private box or something like that.
Yeah.
And then she's like she pauses, looks around, and then she's like, after all I've done for you, like I talked to your Uncle Harlan, I did all that, and then Cyril's like, we're talking about you invading my personal space.
Yeah.
And then like she's like still complaining and stuff, and then he says, I get promoted, and she's like, you know, just kind of like
she's
throwing
like,
to the
I'm
side
so
of her
proud
face,
of my
like,
boy.
oh, I knew they would see your promise. My special
first-
boy pours him more cereal.
Yeah. At first, when I thought he said that, I thought he was lying, and I thought he was
Me
just
too.
saying, yeah, okay. I was curious, and then but then when he speaks to Dedra and he does say like he did get the promotion, or she says something
Yeah.
about it. I was like, oh, okay. I thought he was trying to make an excuse of why he was like not coming home because he was loitering around the ISB.
Yeah,
But-
I thought that as well, but in actuality, it's just not pertinent having a scene of Cyril, you know, typing numbers, and then they're like, "Congratulations, you got promoted." He's like,
Good job on those
Wow.
spreadsheets, Cyril.
"Yeah, I don't know how jobs work."
Yeah, that's literally what he's doing, which is hilarious. There's those scenes of him like sifting through, and it's just like the most random, arbitrary numbers. I'm like, that job looks terrible, dude.
It's very that whole building and like his little cubicle is very Blade Runner-esque.
Yeah. Oh my
in the
gosh.
way that it's presented. Kind of a cool chair though. I mean, like imagine, I don't know, doing your math homework in that chair. Yeah, that'd be kind of
He's
cool.
just like at the full setup. Yeah, no, I also thought that room was very much like Blade Runner.
Yeah.
But let me see here on my notes. Yeah, we already talked about how Clea is like almost as intimidating as Luthen.
It was
if
said
not more.
It was alluded to the idea that she was the one that recruited Pac, which was kind of neat.
Oh, right. That he talked to a woman to get them into connection or whatever.
Dedra was
Yeah.
talking about like what Pac had revealed, and then he had said that he had spoken to a woman that
Yeah.
wanted to like set up some sort of contact, right?
Yeah, Clea definitely seems to be like the I don't know, like the, I don't want to say like the brains, because Luthen definitely is like very intelligent, but like I don't know, she is like a huge support system for Luthen.
She's like, I'm not gonna say, yeah, I'm also not gonna say she's the one that does like all the dirty work, because Luthen does
Yeah.
stuff too. But like, I don't know, Luthen's at the top here, and then Clea's like kind of second in command.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
That's kind of the
They're-
idea.
It reminds me of a way more intense and secretive version of Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. Which
Oh, yeah.
I think we got a little bit of that at the end of Book of Boba Fett, with her kind of like doing the dirty work of taking out those pikes without Boba
If only
knowing.
something came of that, because that was really big. They straight up told us that she killed the entire like heads of the Pike syndicates. Those weren't even like sector guild members. Those were the top guys. So nothing came of that. We'll see if something does.
I know we rag on Book of Boba Fett a lot, and that's not what we're here to do on
No,
this. But
no.
I will say, like, truly and there still should be some heavy hitting Boba action, but a show with like some really deep criminal syndicate like intrigue to like this level of like the subterfuge of like, you know, what's happening, but with like Boba Fett and Fennec and his organization would go so hard. Will we ever get that? I don't know. Would like it. Really like that if it ever happens.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Hope so.
It would be a very good course correct for a second season of Boba. That is all I'm saying. Would it be a stark contrast? Yes, but I do think it would make it feel a lot more. It would just have more gravity to it, I feel like, and make you go, oh man, this is like, you know, with all of the New Republic stuff happening, like this is what Boba is doing. You know,
It would feel more important.
Yeah. Dude, it would have been so cool. Sorry, we're getting into Book of Boba Fett territory. But, like, it would have been so cool if, like, it would have just... You remember the end of Mando Season 2 with the stinger for Book of Boba Fett, where, like, he kills Bib Fortuna. For him to be going around and being like, all right, I'm going to go kill all of the criminal syndicate members, and I'm just going to take this for myself. Kind of the way Maul does it, Or maybe he's going, like, I think with Bib Fortuna, like, there was no way he was gonna let that dude live because he's worked with him enough. He's like, I know his character, but like for him to, yeah, shout out Matt Wood, you do a great job. But it would have been cool for him to be like going to all of the crime lords and then them being like, if they don't cooperate, he just kills them, you know, and it creating this like giant. Like, the New Republic's already reeling from trying to gather all these systems under Imperial rule and taking out Imperial Remnant. And now Boba is, like, completely inserting himself into as replacing Jabba, who, let's be real, Jabba was one of, if not the top criminal syndicate guy. I don't know. There's still opportunity for that. Get Tim back. Dude, Tony Gilroy on a Boba Fett show would go crazy.
I would lose my mind.
Cole would implode.
God forbid Boba be done justice in like recent history.
Dude, you got to read that Blood Ties comic I sent you, man. Like, it is such a treat, bro. Like, you're like, oh my god. All right, Boba Fett. Like, I was like, when I read that, I was like, okay, I get why so many people like Boba Fett now. Because, like, listen, I've liked Boba Fett for a while, but I was always of the impression that I was like, he doesn't really do a whole lot in the movies.
It's kind of a chump.
And I'm like, yeah, he's kind of a chump. And Book of Boba Fett didn't really help that either. It was like, no. Mando season 2, he was cooking. I don't know what happened. Anyway, okay. Mon Mothma stuff. A great piece of dialogue that I know you love, and I completely forgot about this. So, first thing, little detail. When they're at that party and she first meets Tacoma, or like after some time, the music playing in the background is like this lighter, more elevator music style version of the song that plays in the club, and then at the end of the Neamos episode. It's more of like a peaceful, like kind of trancey like, and you can listen to it on the official Andor soundtrack. I believe it's called Neamos, and then like Coruscant Mix, I think is what it's called. And so it's a lot more regal, but there is a great line when she's trying to like relay to Tay like what her political allegiances are, and she's saying, you know, like the Mon Mothma they think they know is a lie. I show you the stone in my hand, and you miss the knife at your throat. Ooh. Like, dude, that line, I was like, Mon Mothma, oh my gosh.
She has a lot of great scenes, and I'm so excited to see what happens with her in season 2. Because like, if they play their cards right, we spoke about this last time, but if they cover her flight from the Senate, it could be very, very good.
It'll be good, yeah. Because we know, like, we see her in Rebels, and like at that point she is already not part of the Senate anymore, and so like to get that transition period is going to be very cool. You know, I hope they give her. In Rebels, and of course in the Return of the Jedi, she kind of, and even in Rogue One, she has the haircut where the hair is kind of more in her face, like it's kind of more of like a, like it's not as like swept back. I do hope we get a little bit of her, because back when we see her in Ahsoka, some years have passed, she's kind of more in her older hairstyle again, her Senate hairstyle. But I would love to see her kind of get that like traditional Mon Mothma look that we know.
I think it could be cool. She's got some really good scenes. A couple of times where like she goes to try to speak to the Senate, and honestly, like just a stark contrast of what the Senate is like in Andor versus how it is in the prequels. Yeah, where like, I mean, it used to be so loud and lively, and you know, really senators, as Anakin had suggested, people coming in and discussing the problem. But in Andor, you know, and then here's the point when I look at the camera, nobody's listening, you know, like there's nobody there, right? And now that I say it, I'm like, is that a like a double entendre for both Narkina 5 and for Mon Mothma? Nobody's listening, you know, they're shutting off their Senate pews. It does, they do the same shot that I think is shown in either Attack of the Clones or Phantom Menace, where like it pans over and like it's that shot where I think it's one of the ones that you're supposed to see like George Lucas in like his little Senate thing. It's basically the same shot, the same perspective, but there's nobody there. Like a lot of the pews are empty. It's really sad. Palpatine's not even there, you know? It's very good. Just watching the decline. And then of course, it will eventually lead up to that line in a New Hope that is said offhand by Tarkin, where he says, you know, the Emperor has dissolved the final remnants of the Senate, right? No longer existing.
Yeah,
man, that's just weird to think
Is
about.
it also, this is kind of off topic, like I'm thinking about that scene. Isn't it crazy that Yoda and Palpatine fought in there?
Yeah.
Like that's like so insane to think about.
Yeah, you never really think about it unless you're watching the scene itself.
Yeah.
Because that's like really the last time the Senate is shown until, you know, we see it again like in Andor. And so now to like watch, to like see it again and go, oh, this is where, you know, Palpatine like threw all of the Senate things.
Yeah, I know. I was like, a lot of those have to be, you know, pretty new implements because a lot of them were.
How did he explain that? You know, how did he explain that? Was he just like, man, it's earthquake?
He probably was like, Yoda was going crazy.
Yeah, I can't believe I got out of it alive. My trusty Masamida saved my life. You know,
Yoda or not Yoda, Palpatine when he's like fighting. If there's anybody else that's not like his immediate counsel, like Sly Moore and Masamida and all of them, I just imagine it being like a Andy's coming sort of thing where like there's people coming and he's like, oh God, they can't know like that I'm that I'm force sensitive. So like after the Yoda fight, he just kind of is like, he's like, oh crap, and he just like lays down. He's like, Yoda attacked me, you know. I mean, it really is the whole thing that he does in Revenge of the Sith, where he's like, I'm too weak, help me. Like that's just him. Oh my gosh.
Sometimes I imagine like, what if that backfired? Because like, if you're showing yourself really weak to Anakin, right? What if Anakin's like, man, maybe you're not all that powerful, you know?
yeah.
And he's I'm too weak.
Maybe you kind of suck. No, yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna flip through here through more of my notes because I have not that many left. I would say. I mentioned this earlier, but one of my favorite things is how much this show is driven by the consequences of Cassian's actions. We talked about this in previous episodes, but the consequence of what he does on Morlana to the guards, and then that brings in the people to Ferrix, and then of course brings in the ISB because they leave the thing behind, and then of course that puts him on Aldhani, and the consequences of Aldhani ups all the prison sentences from 6 months to 6 years, and of course make sure that nobody gets out, and the all of these little traces. And I guess that's just, I mean, maybe good storytelling if I'm being honest, but like it's fun that and cool that so many of them are, you know, Cassian causing these things, and then it ends up being a whole blowback that on this domino effect that eventually it's like, he can't really avoid his destiny, you know, like of being part of the rebellion. Like he keeps running from it, and it's things that are happening directly because of his own action, and it's finally like, okay, you have to join he can't deny it anymore.
Yeah, you bring up something that I wanted to mention that I hadn't noticed before, or at least I guess I just didn't really think about it. We asked like, what happened that made Cassian get put in like a juvenile center when he was younger? Yeah. It had to have been when he attacked the clone troopers after they killed Clem, right? Yep. And by the way, like the transition for Cassian in that scene is really good that I had just never noticed, because it shows his face as an adult, but he's still standing in the crowd. And then Clem puts his hand on Cassian's shoulder, and then the perspective changes, and you see Clem talking to Cassian, but Cassian is now clearly a kid, right? Yeah. But like from that perspective, like you saw adult Cassian still in the crowd in that flashback, and it's only when Clem is talking to him that, you know, he's put back in the place of him being a kid. It's just cool. I like that.
I truly didn't even pick up on that, and like I noticed that it was his adult face, and I remember later on being like, why? I was like, because when he's charging with like the wrench or whatever it is, he looks way younger. Like he doesn't even look like Diego Luna. Looks like a younger actor, and I was like, why did they do that? I didn't even pay attention to the whole like shift thing. That is excellent. That is
just a really great transition.
Yeah. Which that also brings me up because it's right when that scene happens. I wanted to mention this. I forgot that Marva tells Cassian to stop looking for his sister.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll be honest. I do think something is going to come about that in season 2.
You think so?
I think he is going to meet his sister, and it's going to be a giant, like he's going to forget about it, and then it's going to come back when he least expects it. It may not, but I feel like that is such an interesting point that, again, it's brought up that I'm like, you know, Marva didn't really need to say that, you know, but like,
oh man, I'm thinking, I've got another one of those things where like I thought of something that could be really good, but also really terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a similar vein. Like, you know how last time I was like, oh, what if Cassian has to kill Luthen? What if like the person that he ends up sniping is like his sister, but he doesn't know it is?
Yeah.
And it's only after the fact that that he either realizes or is told that it is, and then that leads him to get to the point where, you know, when he has to shoot Galen, he hesitates because he's thinking about his sister.
Yep.
You know,
I think we talked about that a little bit in the first episode that we did, but that I agree. I think this reinforces that notion of like,
yeah,
could his sister show up and be part of the Empire, you know, or be someone that he has to take out because we know he's going to assassinate some people. It's just going to happen.
He is that guy.
Yeah. Or maybe it's a thing where he doesn't hesitate, you know,
Mm-hmm.
again, maybe he doesn't know, maybe he does know, but I don't know. If we don't get a follow-up on that plot thread, that's fine, because I think that makes it feel more, it does make it feel a little bit more real of like, listen, the galaxy's a big place, but it also, I do think would make a lot of sense for him to get so integrated with the rebellion and let that mentally fizzle out, and then it comes back again when he
It comes back to haunt him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Could be cool.
Ah.
Yeah, I'm so stoked for season 2, dude. I don't have many notes left. I was gonna say that one of my favorite lines, and that Star Wars posted a clip of this, but it is when Cassian leaves Ferrix, and the last time he sees Marva, she says, "That's just love. Nothing you can do about that." Like when he's talking about he's gonna worry about her, and I'm like, yo, I kind of slept on Marva Andor. Like I thought she was great the first time I watched it, but I'm like, again, rewatching this show has just, I'm appreciating it even more, you know, and I'm like, it's a testament to how quality and how impactful every scene is in the show. And do you know the actress's name that plays Marva? I'm completely blanking on her.
I'm blanking on it.
Okay, I feel like I should have really wrote these down because I did the same thing for Dedra and everything. But yeah, Marva's actress is simply wonderful, and I think she's so well cast, and it's so sad.
Fiona Shaw.
Yes, Fiona Shaw.
That's
You're
right.
right. Yeah. Okay. She's great.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see her like get more like sick, you know, especially when Cassian's not there. It's gonna make it even harder when
He tells her I'm coming back. Like that's the last thing he says. He also calls her Ma, which is like, man, come on.
Yeah, it's so sad, dude.
Yeah, don't make me cry. I
Yeah.
get all upset.
Forgot about this little detail that I mentioned it earlier. Luthen goes by Axis. That is his code name.
So I was curious. Does he call himself Axis, or does the ISB just call him Axis as like a term?
That's a great point. I have no idea.
Because like I feel like it was, if anything, I'm pretty sure it's a nod to the Axis powers in World War II. But I think it's cool. You know, he has like a little moniker.
See, it reminds me a lot of a parallel to Fulcrum.
Yeah, well, like
Axis,
in
Fulcrum.
universe, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Because originally I was like, Luthen has a code name, and I couldn't remember what it was, and I was like, who all has been Fulcrum in the span of Star Wars? And then I was like, it's not Luthen, is it? And then they revealed it in this episode. I was like, oh, Axis. I was like, okay, that's cool. But yeah, it's not. I can't remember. Maybe they'll reveal it in the next couple episodes, but I do think it might be a Imperial.
Fulcrum used to be Saw Gerrera. I believe.
So yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did some research. So Saw used that channel. It was like a private channel or frequency.
Yeah.
And then eventually Ahsoka takes it.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, I looked it up. Cassian actually uses it, or uses it as like a recruitment thing. And then of course Callus uses it later on.
Yeah.
Which also I will say, would love to see Callus show up in season 2 somehow.
That
A
could be
live
very
action
cool.
Callus. I don't know how they do that, but he was like one of the first head honchos that we ever saw in canon of the ISB.
Yeah. It would be neat to
so-
see him in kind of the grounded lens that Andor offers. I feel like that would be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Speaking of, a final note that I have on the Luthen and Saw scene. Just a great line from Luthen where he tells Saw, he's like, anarchy is a seductive concept.
Yes.
A bit of a luxury, I would argue, to someone who is in a cave, kind of scrounging for scraps. Which is just like, he's just burning the man at that point. And it's so cheeky, it even makes Saw laugh. No sale today, Luthen, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because he wants to like team up with like the Anso Krieger guy. Do we get another Luthen Saw scene later on? I feel like this was not the only scene that we get, right?
Yes. I think it's after
The whole spell house thing goes down.
I believe so.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think so.
That was one thing I left out in my recap was the whole the ISB is tracking the whole like raid on Spellhouse. They like capture a pilot that's part of Anto Krieger's operation, and then they catch wind that there's going to be this like attack on Spellhouse, which is I think what Luthen wanted Saw to help with.
He originally wanted Saw to help with, but then once they found out that the ISB was on to the Spellhouse operation before it was happening, he has to make the decision to still allow it to happen so that the ISB doesn't know that they have a plan.
So that doesn't happen. That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's like with the whole like Lonnie thing in the ISB.
Yep. Yeah.
And he's like, you're gonna stay here. We're gonna let this play out. No one's gonna know that we have a plant. And then I'm pretty sure Saw is gonna go like, you let him go to die, you know?
Yeah.
And as more of like, not testing his morals, but just asking, like, I see.
Yeah, I think that we'll get to that, but I think that's why maybe Saul will realize that him and Luthen are not so different after all. Like truly, Luthen is, I mean, even down to the whole Aldani thing and what Mon lectures him on is like, like people are going to be harmed because of this, and he's like, that's the point.
Yeah.
You know, like he's like to get people to wake up and realize that the Empire is doing more harm than you realize. So and it comes down to the whole speech. But that's the next episode. I don't think I have any more notes left. I do have there's a good quote here is from Senta, and then Vel repeats it later on to Mon Mothma, which is the struggle will always come first. We take what's left.
Yeah.
Which is pretty great.
It is good.
I don't have anything else. Just remember, because I have it in my notes here, the name of the alien scream that they use on Bix, they are the people of Dizon Frey, or the Dizonites or Dizonites. Yeah, that is all the little notes I got for these episodes, and it's not as like big moment heavy, but next week will be big moment heavy when it comes to the last 3 episodes.
There's gonna be a lot, I think, a little too much to talk about.
Yeah.
Because like not only are we gonna be talking about the finale of Andor, but also like the finale of the Narkina 5 arc. But then also that'll be our last episode before we start season 2, which is very exciting.
Dude,
so
3 episodes a week, bro. Like,
yeah, we've got our work cut out for us.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to cover a lot.
This has been really fun. It's crazy that we're about to be on our last part of this. But this has been really fun, just like as a refresher and just being able to like talk about something that we have always said since the genesis of the show, like how much we love it. And just getting to like analyze it with a new lens is really fun.
April of Andor.
Yeah, April and April. I don't
Andor April.
the rain's coming down on the Empire. I don't know.
Yeah, because like April showers, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you have any final thoughts before we go into our chat pack and wrap the episode up?
It was something. It was like a little note that I made in my mind that I think was neat. Kino, like, even though he took a while to really commit to it, he still knew a lot about. Like, it almost made it seem like he had planned to escape before, but he just gave up on it. Ergo, like the never more than 12. Or like constantly denying Melshi, like, don't say that, like it's not. We gotta lock in.
He punches him in the stomach at some one point.
Well, Melshi's pushing it. He's right, but he's pushing it. I think one thing that really surprised me as to like the scale of the prison is that, like, when they're talking about like when they're doing the hand signs from window to window, and they're like having confusion on what they're saying. Kino says, "You don't even know what they're saying. It takes 1 week to get it takes a week to get one word across the entire facility." So it makes me think like they're pantomime, like they're doing these signs to get a word across. It takes a week to do that. How big is this facility? If you're talking about rotations or levels or whatever, fully across the facility, how many people are in here, you know?
Yeah.
And we'll find out in the next episode. So,
dude, the next 3 episodes are gonna be so hype. Oh my gosh, like, I'm so pumped. It's also, the last thing that I mentioned on that is it makes you wonder, especially with Kino and also with Olaf, like, how long was Olaf in that prison? Because he's an old man. Like, it's been 14 years. His sentence, he had 40 days left. We see with Cassian's was 6 years.
Yeah. What makes me curious is how much sentences were added on to that were already there, right?
Yeah.
Because would Olaf had already been let go if the act hadn't been released? Kino has, at least the last time he had mentioned it was like 217 days left.
Yeah.
And so were his added on to, or I don't know. And well, we all know that even if he were to be let go, he would just be released on another level. Yeah. So,
dude,
it's only one way out.
Wait, hold on. Say that again.
It's only one way out.
Guys, I think I got it. You ready? No. You want to do a number, or you want to just grab a random one?
Do we? How many of them are there?
I mean, it's still between 2 and 124, but there's a lot in between that are missing. So,
let's do 40 for Olaf.
Oh, that's brutal.
Rest in peace, King.
Can we do 41? Is that okay? I have 41. I don't have 40.
It's not my call. It's Olaf's, you know?
Yeah.
It's not my
Olaf,
sentence.
is that okay? Okay, he's just gonna be a nod.
Oh, okay, cool.
I don't remember what these guys look. Actually, no, I do. All right. Anyway, maybe you'll help jog my memory.
Okay.
What is creepier, a mechanical droid spider or a fanged ice spider? I'm assuming the ones from Mando season 2. Those are the fanged ice spiders.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that they eat the frog, the frogs, you know.
Yeah, and then I don't know. Is the other one talking about the dwarf spider droids?
I think they're talking about the ones in Jabba's palace with like the brains, maybe.
Oh, those are pretty weird.
Yeah,
those freak me out.
The lore on that is wild.
Yeah, we'll go with that because that feels like Dr. Evazan sort of thing.
It is, but like they don't really do anything. They just kind of wander. Like they're creepy. To be honest, like that scene in Mando season 2 when there are just swarms of baby spiders and he's like having to like shoot them off or whatever. Hate that. Like would I be
weird? I don't remember what they look like. I really don't.
They're just like big like cone spiders with like these like beaks and like you remember this? They're very similar to the spiders that
Ones in
Kanan.
Fallen Order, maybe. Oh, the ones.
There are the remember there are the ones in Fallen Order, the Y-Shock spiders. Those are creepy too.
Yeah.
I
don't
listen.
know.
I'm kind of an arachnophobe, so like, I feel like the droid. Well, I don't know. Like the droid ones don't hurt. They just like roam around. You know.
I think
like,
it's just like the whole like brain thing. It freaks me out.
okay.
And I'm like, I don't know. I'm a little uncomfortable. Like, who are you? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Weren't they like monks of the old like the temple before Jabba came in? That's what I remember.
Oh my god, is that what happens to that, what's his face in Vader's castle? Because they're doing that in the Kylo Ren comic. Is that the same idea? Is that what they're doing?
It might be. I think that guy's name is, like, Tani is his name. I'm reading that comic right now. It's, it's been pretty entertaining, but yeah, he's just like a floating head and like a...
See, that's weird. Like, just stop.
Weird.
You know, you're creeping me out. You're getting in my personal space, Cyril.
I think there was a Legends comic that also had a spider with Count Dooku's head on it. A little too far.
Maul also attached himself to a half spider.
What is up with all these spiders, bro?
I don't know, man.
Maul in the spider version is pretty creepy. Like,
Yeah.
I would hate that.
Yeah, like what? I feel like he could have figured something else out. Why did he do why did he do the whole spider thing? Unless like he just completely lost his marbles as soon as he got down there, you know. Which I mean, probably.
Yeah, I mean, probably if I, much like if I would crash out if I if I got put into prison, I would also crash out if I fell down a reactor shaft after being cut in half, and then,
thrown on Trash Planet.
Yeah,
Trademark
thrown on
pending.
With a giant snake guy roaming around annoying me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Remember that snake guy? The Anacondans or whatever?
It was weird.
Yeah. Doesn't like Savage like choke him at one point or something?
Yeah. He might have killed him. I don't remember.
Savage was kind of based for that. That guy sucked.
Savage oppress.
Bro, that is such a Savage. His name is so like just so like evil. It's like Savage and Oppress.
It sounds like an Xbox gamer tag.
Yeah.
You know?
XX Savage Oppress XX.
I mean, I guess it is a very Sith name.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not a Sith, but it is a very Sith name. Because I mean, Darth Maul.
Savage has a last name. Did Maul have a last name?
Oppress? I don't know.
Maul Oppress.
I formerly Darth, now just Maul. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's gonna do it for this episode of Mortis FM, a Star Wars podcast. I don't have anything else to say other than Cole. May the Force be with you.
And with you always.